Hello everyone, today we'll be starting our June webinar series with our prevention consultant, Muna Hayajna. She'll be presenting her topic titled Finding Belonging, Why Community is Essential for Mental Health. So just a little information about her. Muna is a prevention consultant at NJ4S Union. She graduated with a bachelor's in public health from Keene University and is currently pursuing her master's in counseling with a concentration in clinical mental health counseling, also from Keene University. Muna's journey in prevention began with her fellowship through the New Jersey Prevention Network, where she gained valuable experience in prevention initiatives. During the fellowship, she graduated from the National Coalition Academy under the instruction of CA/DCA trainers, where she developed a foundation in coalition building and substance abuse prevention. Now, working towards her prevention specialist certification, Muna continues to focus on creating impactful, evidence-based programs that support sustainable health outcomes. So I will now let Muna take over.
Thank you, Grace. And my topic for today for the webinar is Finding Belonging and Why Community is Essential for Mental Health. In our agenda, I started off with importance of human connection and how we are wired for social connection. And then after that, we're going to go into what it means to belong, how that feels, and some quotes about belonging. For number 3, we're going to go into modern isolation and why that is a big issue, what causes it, and the impacts it has on mental health comes next. And then last but not least, I'm going to speak about finding supportive communities. So as the solution to modern isolation is how to find supportive communities in our digital age. So to get us started, the human is a social being. This is something I always like to touch on when it comes to any presentation or any workshop about social connection and support systems. I find that people tend to forget that we are not meant to do things alone. Humans, we are social creatures, and we're naturally wired to live in groups, to form these social connections with our friends, families, and we thrive in social environments. So meaning we don't operate well when we're in isolation. So some things I wrote down, our ability to build relationships and work together has been key to our survival and success. So what we mean by this is that we are not able to survive alone. We can't survive without each other, and we can't thrive and succeed without each other. We always need support from our family, our friends, our coworkers, our network, and everyone around us. Our social behavior reflects this need for connection, and I have a list of some of our social behaviors. So that starts off with our innate need for connection. So starting off from infancy, we always seek connection, we seek eye contact, we laugh, we even communicate non-verbally with our parents and caregivers. So that starts off from early infancy and it continues into our late adulthood and into even until death. Like we always need connection around us. Then we have communication and language. So humans, we developed communication and language, whether that's nonverbal communication or verbal communication. We have many languages because we all share this in common, that we have to speak to each other and connect in that way to share ideas and thoughts and etc. We also exhibit cooperative behavior. So we work together to get things done. We help each other. We support each other. That's something that is innate in us. And that's something that we're born wanting to do because we want to connect with the people around us. And then we have emotional empathy. So that's when we feel for each other. When someone cries, we feel sad, or we cry. When we see someone laughing, we laugh as well. So that's our natural empathy that we have. And that also helps us connect with each other emotionally. Then we have social norms and customs. So like every culture, we have norms and cultural things that we do. That's what helps us connect with the people around us, that we can predict people's behavior, what we can do during certain occasions, things like that. Just different ways to show respect and appreciation for the people around us. And then lastly, we have social learning. So we don't learn alone. We can learn alone, but we thrive more when we learn with other people. So that's why we have classrooms, we have schools, universities. We create environments for learning. So we learn in those social settings and we learn from each other socially. So next, I always like to touch on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is going to show us how belonging is important. So as we all know, it starts off with the physiological needs. That would be at the very bottom. That's the foundation to everything. So that would include food, shelter, water, such things like that. And then we have our safety needs, so that would also include shelter, but it includes security, whether that's like financial or whether we have people around us to keep us safe. Thus that we're not vulnerable to the environment. So it starts off physiological, then we have safety. Then our third, I guess, pillar is love and belonging. So that's very important. Love and belonging is us feeling that we belong with our family, our friends, that we have people that we connect with that care about us. And then upon that is what we can build esteem and self-actualization. We all know that we're not meant to fulfill any of these needs alone, even physiological. Like we are supposed to have people around us who can support that. But the way society operates now, people tend to find themselves alone in providing all of these things. But again, love and belonging, that would be the relationships with others, feeling connected. That would be like spending time with friends or family. And upon that, we build our esteem needs and our self-actualization. So our esteem needs look like feeling good about ourselves, having that self-respect and being proud of our accomplishments and who we are as people and our character. That comes after we find the love and belonging. And then upon that, we can build our self-actualization, which means reaching our goals and our potential and growing just as a person, whether that you have academic goals, career goals, anything of that sort, that is built upon love and belonging. So what does it mean to belong? At its core, to belong means to feel genuinely accepted by the people around you, to feel valued and connected to a group or a community. It gives you that feeling of emotional certainty that you don't have to doubt your connections with others. It gives you that security in yourself. And like I said, it builds that esteem and self-actualization later on. So if you don't feel like you belong, it's hard to feel a sense of esteem, to feel a sense of pride in yourself, because it's hard to have that frame of reference with the social environment around you. Another thing about belonging is like that is tied to your authenticity. So it's not about fitting in. If you fit in, that's you changing yourself for the environment around you to be similar to the people around you. That's the opposite of belonging. Belonging is when you are your authentic self and you're accepted for that. So you go somewhere that already feels like home, where people can understand you and see you for who you are. This is a quote from Brené Brown. It involves her definition of belonging. So she says, "True belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of true belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance." So I leave you with that. I think it's a very profound thing to say, that we share our imperfect selves, that we're vulnerable with people around us, and that is where true belonging happens, because they see us for what we are and with our flaws and imperfections and everything, rather than us showing an image to the world just so that we can fit in and be accepted. And then she says our sense of true belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. So we have to accept ourselves first. That is the key in order to belong. Because if you don't accept yourself first, you'll find it very hard to be your authentic self around other people. So I just thought that was a very nice quote to add in there. So some aspects of belonging. Belonging looks like acceptance, connection, inclusion, support, and authenticity. So feeling welcomed rather than judged, having meaningful relationships with others, feeling like you are part of a group or community, knowing others care about your well-being, and being able to express who you are without hiding parts of yourself. So that is all things that we all seek when we are looking for community, friendship, etc. So how does it feel to belong? Belonging feels like a profound sense of safety, feeling seen and feeling aligned with the people around you. And it feels like relief. So here are some feelings that are associated with when a person is in a state of belonging. So we have safety, security, contentment, peace. We feel a sense of calm, joy, gratitude, validation, and relief. These are all feelings that are tied to your well-being. So that's what people want to feel on a day-to-day. And when you're not in a state of belonging, you might actually feel the opposite of these. You might feel anxiety, stress, sadness, grief, things like that. So we're going to go into modern isolation. So modern isolation means, or it refers to the growing experience of loneliness, disconnection, and lack of meaningful relationships. In today's world, this is a big thing. It's a huge issue, even though we're more connected than we ever were with modern technology. So here are some stats about modern isolation. So approximately 52 million Americans experience daily loneliness. 8% of Americans have no close friends, and 53% have only 1 to 4 close friends. 40% of adults age 45 plus report loneliness. So modern isolation impacts the elderly at an exceeding rate than other people. And then lastly, chronic social disconnection carries health risks comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes per day. So it can affect our physical health just like smoking. What that refers to is when people substitute their social lives, their in-person hangouts, and things like that with just using social media. So instead of connecting with their friends in person, they substitute it by just following people and staying updated with their lives without actually planning to spend time with them. So that is something that we need to watch out for because it's very easy to forget to see people in person when you have access to them on the phone all the time. And then our second factor is loss of third places. So third places refer to the places that we used to socialize, hang out. That could be like church, the park, school, etc. Back in the day, people would just meet each other in person because, people didn't rely so much on the phone, or even before the phone existed. Third places were very common. But now in our modern age, third places have become rare and people haven't been utilizing them as much as well. And also a lot of our places that we hang out in have become places of business. So what that means is most people, when they want to hang out with their friends, they'll go to a restaurant or a bar or maybe a gym or a workout class. But all of these things cost money. So it's financially straining for some individuals who might want to have a social connection and community, but they don't have the means to afford that. So that would refer to the loss of third places. And then there's the aspect of vulnerability and trust. In our day and age, we've had rising levels, or we've had rising statistics for depression and anxiety, especially social anxiety. So that ties into the vulnerability and trust aspect, where people don't feel comfortable being vulnerable with others. It's hard for people to let their guard down because of these things that they're struggling with. So that comes in the way of forming these social connections. And then there's transient lifestyle. So that refers to the rising number of people who travel for work. So they might live in one city but work in another, or live in be from one state and move to another state for work, or even another country. So with globalization, it's easy to find work in different places that you've never been before, but then people forget that when they move, they still have to have those social connections, and some people will move but not make an effort to build new friendships and new community, or maybe have a hard time doing so. But there's always different ways to do that, and we'll talk about that later in the slides. And then lastly, we have work culture and hyper-individualism. So work culture is just, the hours of 9 to 5, or some people might work more hours than that. And then at the end of the day, they're tired. They don't really have time to plan things. Maybe if they have a family or children, they don't really have time to plan with their friends and the rest of their community. So it's hard for a lot of individuals to make this time because of their work schedule and their work culture. Maybe they don't have enough PTO. There's different reasons where people might feel strained in regards to their time. And then lastly, hyper-individualism. So what this refers to is the phenomena of people not being community oriented anymore as they should be. Back in the day, people were very community oriented and they saw support from each other, and they also kind of expected it because that was the norm. But now people are more individualistic, which is a good thing, but can also be a bad thing when it's hyper individualism, because now we're looking at people who only think about what is in their best interest, and they don't have time to pour into the people around them. And there's a quote that says it takes, we say it takes a village to raise a child. That's one of the quotes about community, but also in order to have a village, you have to be a villager. So what that means is if you want a community, you have to be a member of that community and you have to be community oriented. You have to pour into that and you have to be supportive to the people around you so that you can get that support in return. So that speaks to the hyper individualism piece. It's something that people are speaking more about, and people have gotten better at being community oriented, but we still have a long way to go. As we know, a lack of meaningful social connections can affect our mental health in many different ways. So that would increase stress, depression, irritability, anxiety, insomnia, depersonalization, and mood disorders. So that happens over time when social isolation becomes too much, when we are isolated for too long and we aren't seeking these connections around us. We don't even have one person to support us. This can happen. A lot of people reported these things during the pandemic when everyone was in social distancing and staying home, quarantining. So that was a very hard time for people's mental health. So finding supportive communities can help people build connections, strengthen resilience, and improve overall well-being. So the opposite happens when people exhibit these behaviors or these mental health issues because of isolation. These things can easily be reversed once they integrate themselves into a community or surround themselves with support. So we're going to go into how you can do that. Okay, so finding supportive communities. A little piece on that. Supportive communities, as a definition, are a group of people that help us feel safe, accepted, and valued, and they can help us build meaningful connections with others who share similar experiences, interests, or goals. So an example of a supportive community could be an LGBTQ support group. So people who have LGBTQ identities, maybe they can't find people they can relate to, or maybe their families don't believe in their lifestyle, they can go and find support groups to connect with people that understand their lived experience, people who will accept them for who they are. We also have examples like immigrant or cultural communities that preserve shared identity and lived experience. These are things you can find on Facebook or different applications, which we'll talk about. So if somebody migrates to the United States and they don't have a lot of people around them that speak the same language, know the same foods, have the same culture, they can always go and seek a support group in that sense. There's creative communities, so people can join art classes, music groups, writing circles. I know there's poetry circles in New York that a lot of people like to join because that's like a hobby that they like to share with other people and perform even, so that's a good thing. Then there's fitness communities like run clubs, yoga groups, and soccer teams, etc. Gaming communities, those are mostly based online, but some people even meet with each other in person to play. So that could be like if people really like to play Fortnite, they can go on Discord and meet people who also enjoy that game, and then they can play multiplayer together. And then lastly, like an example could be fandoms for movie franchises. These are also very popular online. They could be fans of TV shows, bands, book series, or sports teams. That's also a way to find people that have similar interests with you. So finding supportive community comes down to intentionality, putting yourself out there and putting yourself in spaces where connection can grow over time and happen naturally. So you would want to seek people that have something in common with you, whether that's a hobby or an interest or a cultural identity or anything like that. And the key is to be active and involved in something that interests you. This will help you meet people you share common interests with. So this goes back to what Brene Brown said about self-acceptance. Belonging cannot come before self-acceptance. So once you accept yourself and you take inventory on the things that you love, the things that you enjoy, the things that interest you, then you can find people that align with you. So with that, I'm going to show you some online community applications and websites. So our first one is Nextdoor. So that's the green icon. That's an app where you can find people in your neighborhood to connect with. You can ask for different favors or, see what's going on in the neighborhood in general. And then the one next to it, the orange icon that's shaped like an E, that is Eventbrite. So that's also that's more of an event app, but you can find things going on that are social events. So I know for a fact in Jersey City, they have a lot of events that are like game nights and jam sessions or run club or hiking. So they specifically make them for people who live in or around Jersey City to attend and meet other people and make friends. And then we have Facebook. Almost every community or a city or a neighborhood even has a Facebook group. There are Facebook groups for different hobbies, different interests, different identities. Like anyone can really go on Facebook and find a group that they can join. And then sometimes these groups will have events where people can meet up and, meet new people. And then the same goes for Meetup. So that's the one next to it, the red icon. That's also an app where you can meet people. So this is an intentional app for making groups for meetups. So it can be interests like language interests or people who like to travel. They will book a place, they will all meet up there, and you can RSVP and attend. And then you get to meet people through that. Then we have Discord. So Discord is one of the online community applications. So people usually use it for gaming or streaming and things like that. So they find people who are interested in some of the same things that are online hobbies. And same goes for Reddit. Reddit is also a platform where people can post things, opinion pieces, threads, and different things of that sort. I find that a lot of fandoms go on there. So people find they can join a subreddit that could be their favorite show and then meet people that have that same interest. And if they find someone from their area, then they can hang out in person. And then after that, we have Bumble BFF. So that is an application, I think that started a few years ago. And that's where people can create groups, meet friends. You basically create a profile and then write your hobbies and interests, and you meet people who are into the same things. So then you can hang out with them, and it shows you how far they are from you, like what town they live in, and you can always plan to hang out. Then we have TikTok and Instagram. Those are, very popular social media platforms, but people do use them to connect with others. TikTok is it's very short form, so people post short videos, but I find that a lot of people are able to create videos of their opinions on things, things that happen in the world, and people have found a lot of community on TikTok specifically because a lot of young people use that. And then Instagram is the same way. You can also post reels and pictures and stuff like that, and you can add people and their DMs. That's how that works. So very similar to how Facebook operates. So with that, I want to leave you with a couple of quotes. The first one is, "I long, as does every human being, to be at home wherever I find myself." And that is by Maya Angelou. And then this is an unknown quote, but it says, "There are places you have never been where you already belong." And that is to give people hope, because it's very hard to find belonging when you've gone for a long time without that, or maybe you moved to a new place, or you just never felt like you belong. But I'm sure once you find that self-acceptance and you put yourself out there in the spaces that make sense for you and that align with you, that you will find that you belong. You just have to look for those places.
Thank you very much, Muna, for this very informative presentation. Our next presentation for June will take place on June 25th, 6 p.m., presented by Jennifer Destra. She'll be presenting The Body Remembers, Understanding Trauma and Its Impact on Physical and Mental Health, so stay tuned for that. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.